Welcome to the 700 Club. The Biden administration is sending troops to Eastern Europe in an effort to stop a Russian invasion of Ukraine. That move has many Americans asking if it's in our country's best interest to get involved.
One American who believes the United States should be involved is former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He says that protecting Ukraine is vital to our country's economy. He also thinks that President Biden's weak foreign policy is enabling Vladimir Putin. Here's David Brody with the details.
At this point, the biggest question remains, will President Vladimir Putin invade Ukraine?
No one knows the answer to that question. He may not even know at this point. He's racking and stacking. He's performing pretty elegant, rational math for himself to say, I want to have more political influence, more control in my near abroad. He feels still that the Soviet Union was a great thing, and he wants to restore as much of it as he can.
Is there a moral obligation to stop him?
So America's always had a strong belief that we wanted to support other democracies. Part of it's moral, part of it's our understanding of human dignity and the value of every human life, David. But part of it's just plain old importance to American national security. They are twin pillars.
And another pillar is the American economy, something Pompeo believes could be directly affected.
Almost a third of the wheat, red winter wheat that travels across the world, comes out of Ukraine and Russia and goes through the Black Sea, the very thing that is being threatened by Vladimir Putin. These things matter to the global food supply. If you're living in the outskirts of Las Vegas or Bakersfield or in Tennessee or Georgia or in the upper Midwest, you depend on these stable food supplies.
The former Secretary of State and CIA director believes it is the Biden administration that helped create this mess in Eastern Europe.
The United States enabled this, and that's just most unfortunate, David.
When you say enable that, explain exactly what you mean.
There's so many pieces to this. Deterrence is about mindset. It's about convincing your adversaries that you are serious and determined. And so, President Biden goes to meet with Vladimir Putin to talk about the fact that he shut down an American pipeline for gasoline in our country and says, don't do that again. No other costs imposed.
There's a lot of folks in America, tens of millions, that have no trust in Biden whatsoever, that he's going to bungle this one, too.
So I pray that they get it right. I want good things for them. This isn't about R's and D's. This is about America. I hope they get it right.
China's watching this, and do you believe they're seeing weakness from the Biden administration on this?
Well, of course they are. The whole world can observe that weakness. Yeah, Xi Jinping's doing his math too, not just with respect to Taiwan, with respect to running spies inside the United States.
If Trump, by the way, was president, would Putin dare even try any of this?
I can only say, as a faithful Christian, I can only say I don't know, but I can tell you that he didn't.
Despite tough words on Biden's handling of Putin and Russia, he does like the decision to go after ISIS's top leader.
The world is safer as a result of him no longer being part of it. So congratulations to the Biden team for getting that done. It's not the end. The threat from radical Islamic terrorism remains, but it's always good when you can, in a way that we did, reach out, take down leadership of these terror networks. You make more difficult for them to bring that terror to our homeland.
David Brody, CBN News, Washington.
Well, the world is looking at American weakness when you have the spokesman for the South Korean military saying America is getting weaker as we speak. They're not talking about any one particular administration. I mean, you can point to the withdrawal from Afghanistan as a major blunder, that you don't get your own citizens out of the country before you get your military out of the country. So you can look at that and say that was a huge blunder. But what they're really looking at is the political division within our country, where you look over the past 4 years, 2 attempts to impeach a sitting president, then the whole turmoil over the election in 2020, the continuing turmoil, the continuing division. Is the Biden administration really centered and in power, or are we just biding time until the midterm elections? All of those things point to weakness. And then on top of it, we're weakening our own currency. We're continuing to borrow against our currency. Our debt is up to $30 trillion. And the world is actively wondering, can we even afford another war? Can we afford to be the world's police? All of these questions point to American weakness. There's a lot more to this equation than one particular administration. We have to come back together as a people. And again, a house divided can't stand. We have to find ways to come together. Well, in other news, meteorologists are calling the winter storm spreading across the country a marathon. John Jessup has more on that story from our CBN News Bureau in Washington. John?
Right, Gordon. As the storm moves into the northeast today, most of the country is dealing with the large amounts of snow and ice it left behind. From New Mexico to Michigan, more than a foot of snow accumulated across multiple states. Ice and sleet causing thousands of power outages and dangerous travel conditions. In Austin, Texas, icy roads were blamed for a 14-car pileup.
We are dealing with one of the most significant icing events that we've had in the state of Texas in at least several decades.
More than 150,000 people are without power in Tennessee, where trees took down power lines. And in Alabama, a tornado touched down near Tuscaloosa, killing at least one person. The snow and ice is now headed for the northeast. The National Weather Service issuing winter storm warnings and watches for more than a dozen states. Well, turning now to Israel, where despite pandemic restrictions, large numbers of pilgrims gathered at the Jordan River recently to celebrate the baptism of Jesus. CBN Middle East Bureau Chief Chris Mitchell has that story.
The celebration began with prayers at the Greek Orthodox St. John the Baptist Monastery.
It's the memorial day of the baptism of Jesus Christ.
Then worshipers took the mile-long trek to the Jordan River.
The Patriarch and all the fraternity were coming here in Jordan River and to make the service here as it was before approximately 2,000 years.
This is Qasr al-Yahud on the Jordan River, and beyond that is the country of Jordan. Many believe that this is the place where Jesus was baptized by John, where the children of Israel crossed over into the Promised Land, and Elijah the prophet was carried off to heaven in a chariot.
Every year we have more than 15,000 pilgrims from Greece, from Russia, from Romania, from Bulgaria, all the Orthodox countries. But this year, unfortunately, we are only the people that were living here.
Before the pandemic, some 800,000 pilgrims visited the site each year. While only 50 were allowed last year, some 1,700 participated in the annual celebration.
This year there were more people than last year because the corona guidelines were expanded, but there was still a smaller amount in relation to previous years.
Known as the land of the monasteries, the area is considered part of the West Bank, biblical Judea and Samaria. While under Israeli security control, both Israelis and Palestinians are welcome to visit.
Qasr al-Yahud, the baptismal place, is a religious site that is open in general to all religions and peoples, to whoever wants to come here without restrictions on religion, race, or gender.
That includes Christian foreign workers who live in Israel, like Sophie.
Today is the best, most wonderful day in the world. I'm happy that I've come here and that I have this opportunity, that there's a church here and I feel well. I thank God for that.
And even some Israelis visited the holy site.
We have 35 amazing Israelis who really are attracted to this beautiful day. First of all, we are lucky. You know, beautiful, the most fantastic weather, and of course this amazing site, which is actually the third holiest site for Christianity in the world, after the Holy Sepulchre and the Church of the Nativity.
Moshe Maoz is a licensed Israeli tour guide.
The fact that Israelis, Jewish Israelis, we are born here, we're educated here. We definitely were exposed to the Bible, and some of us to the New Testament, and here we are in the Holy Land. This is the treasure of the world. This is where everything started. Here we are citizens here. So why not to see the treasure and the beauty of this country?
And Maoz had a message for all those longing to return.
This is the Holy Land, the actual Holy Land of the world, the center of the world. Please come.
Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Thanks, Chris. Gordon. Fewer pilgrims, but still a powerful moment of remembrance.
It's still a very powerful place. I've been there. I've had baptismal services there. And it's amazing to see it because what you have to do is literally travel through a no man's land. There are these fences along the road and warnings that they're landmines because this is one of the closest points to Jordan. and terrorists have used that proximity to come into Israel. But here's something for you. You may not have picked up from that piece, but the Arab name for this place is Qasr al-Yahud. And when you translate that, it's Bridge of the Jews. Even the Arabs recognized that 3,500 years ago, this is where Joshua and the Israelites crossed the Jordan River to come into the Promised Land. You can say all you want, this is West Bank and these are illegal settlements and this is all this other kind of political stuff. The historical record in Arabic is this is the Bridge of the Jews, and this is Judea and Samaria. This is an historic part of the nation of Israel.